All right, I'm going to start the period out by giving you a very blanket generalization. So in other words, this isn't totally true, but it's true in this case. The women in this class listen much better than the men do. Okay? Because all three of the women in the class turned in the homework with a fortune ball and with the tip calculator. Almost all of the men did not. If you did not, you got an email from me today saying that as of right now, you've got 0 out of 50. So you will have time today to make sure that if you do have it done, just bring it up here, not this second. All right? But the three ladies all thank you very much because all of you did what you were supposed to do. And one other person who's not a female in here also listened. So 4 out of 9 listened. All right. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over Chapter 7. It's a short chapter. It won't take long. After that, I'm going to give you your homework that you're going to have for Chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, so if you do have those assignments done already, you can start on that homework. All right, if you don't have those assignments ready, then you can make them ready by the end, hopefully by the end of the period. All right, so Chapter 7 begins here on the handout on the PDF on page 225. It's how to work with themes and styles. All right. Now, if you can imagine, you all have done this before. When we were back in the days of HTML, and we learned about CSS. And after a while, what I had you do, or at least strongly encouraged you to do, if it didn't force you to do it, was to have external files, external CSS files, .css files. Doing something like that, for lack of better words, is like going in and creating your own theme. It's not 100% identical, but it's similar in nature. The individual components that made up that CSS file, you might have had stuff for a body, you might have had stuff for your LIs or whatever, those are like the styles. So just so you know that as we get started here. All right. Now, there's a page or 2 or 3 in this chapter that it's not that it's wrong, but it says these files will, these folders, etc., will be created for you in Eclipse. Since we're not using Eclipse, we won't have that many files and folders generated for us. We have the same stuff, but it's just done in a different way. All right. So, as it says, themes and styles allow you to separate the design from the content. Again, you've heard that before when we talked about CSS versus HTML versus JavaScript. And we talked about the reason for putting each one of those in their own separate files. Same kind of an idea, so that we would separate the design from the content. All right, so again, nothing new there. So you can see what's in here. Again, the chapter is literally about 20 pages long. All right, an intro to themes and styles, how to work with styles, how to work with themes, and in the end, how to work with colors. There really isn't, colors is only the last 2 or 3 pages. There's nothing in colors that I could see that I haven't already told you about. All right, so that will go through like that. All right. When we get done, I will give you the assignment, okay? And we'll talk about the assignment for 5 minutes or so. I'm in the middle of grading your tests. I'd like to get them done by the end of the period. That's just one less thing that I have to work on this weekend then. All right? So I will do the best I can. I will not put them in the book until everyone is done, though. All right? Just so you know that. And what that means is, I mean, you can always tell what an exciting life I have because it's Friday, so it's laundry night. All right? So when I get back to the apartment, I got to go do my laundry. Once in a while, I treat myself and go out, and Chick-fil-A or whatever. Yeah, Panda Express, whatever. I went there already this week, so I don't think so. All right. But the point is, I'd be back in the apartment by probably no later than 7 or 7:30. Probably don't go to bed. Usually on Fridays, that's my late night because it's like 10:30. All right. So that'd give me 3 hours that I can finish grading these if I need to do so. So hopefully by the end of the day, you'll be able to look in the book, inside Rankin, and find out exactly where you stand, if you're missing anything, etc. All right. Now, the other thing is what I did give you the chance to do, and there's 2 or 3 of you in this room that didn't take advantage of it, and that's okay. When you got your last test back, I told you, not this one we just took, but the previous one, we did it in class, and if you wanted to go and upgrade yours, make it work, and turn it in, I'd give you some points back. A couple people in this room did not do that. That's okay. All right? So what I did for, I literally made that part of your assignment. So what I did was I added together your first 2 test scores and divided by 2 and gave you that grade. I tried to be as fair as I could because you didn't do anything. I didn't want to give you 0. All right, so you got points. All right. So as it says, by default, an Android app uses built-in themes and styles. What does that mean? That means that out of the box, you already have things that are available to you. They are limited, as you'd probably guess. Now, if you look up on the screen here, they show you a little chronology. Smaller here. So when they first started, you had Theme Light, if you look up on the screen here. And then a little later, it was about, I think, API 11 or something like that. It went to HoloLight. And then in about 14, it went to HoloLight Dark Action Bar. You can see these are the last 2 are fairly similar, except again, you get that title of the thing, and that's the Dark Action Bar. All right? But they aren't, they're fairly similar to one another. Okay? Once you really get going, what you can do is you can grab an existing theme. You can create your own themes. All right, and I was going to do this. I don't know why I didn't. I guess for lack of better words, I must have forgotten about it. So I'm going to come over here. It says how to personalize, how to customize your phone, everything you need to know about, etc., etc. But my guess is if I looked long enough, that there's probably somebody out there that creates themes where you can buy them. All right. Now, is that important? No. I mean, are there other sites that you can go to out there to get theme information? If I were you, I'd go look, because when you create your actual project, you may not want to use that theme. If there's a built-in one, it's kind of like going out and finding those Bootstrap themes. I think it's much easier to start with something like that and add your own stuff to it than it is to start from scratch. Now, if you don't agree with that, Evan says, no, there's nothing out there that's like I want. I'm going to do it myself. Then do it. It's okay. That's fine. So, again, on page 226, they gave you the chronology of what it is, etc. But I just showed you the pictures that are on 227. So, again, if you look here, a style is a collection of properties for an individual widget. A theme is a style, basically, that's applied to an activity, so to an entire app or to at least a page on an app. All right? As it says, again, Android includes several built-in themes. And as we talked about, there's the chronology, so to speak. This, where it says here, the theme framework that's generated by Eclipse, just don't read that. All right? We're not using Eclipse, but I do want you to see this. We have this. Something that looks virtually the same as this in our res values. You've got something like that. We don't have the V11 and the V14. We don't have those. We only have one file, one styles.xml file. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and create them if you decide that, again, I want to say this, and I want to make sure everybody gets it, that right now, we are on about, in Android, I think it's API 27. All right? The first one, as you guessed, was API 1. That should make sense to everybody. All right? Virtually no one uses API 1 anymore. It's just too old. It's too antiquated. In fact, most of the time, you'll find that the minimum people will use is either about 11 or else it's 14. All right? And I know we've talked about this before, but I just want you to understand that if you say that the minimum that you're going to use is 11, all right, and you've got some different stuff in there in API 27, real cool new stuff, it'll work for people using that API. But if they're back using API 11, it's not going to work for them. All right, whether it's a tablet or a phone is irrelevant. All right, but the idea with about 11 or so, that's going to give you approximately 90% coverage. That's the reason that a lot of people choose those. All right, just so you're aware of that. In the manifest file, notice what it says here. It says Android theme equals @style app theme. Everybody see this line that I'm going here with the mouse? Well, then look, style name equal app theme. So it's that one that they're talking about. There is a correlation between what's in your manifest file, all right, and where it's pointing to, for lack of better words. In the same way it points to your string file, all right, that kind of thing. All right. So, how to work with styles. The author says, now that you understand how built-in themes work, you're ready to learn how to work with styles. To start, you can define a style, then you can apply that style to a widget. Now, that's all fine. If you look at the example, though, what I don't like about what the author did, this is me speaking. You may agree, you may disagree. But one of the things I tried to tell you back in the day when we were working with CSS was, don't, for example, if you think, I want all my paragraphs to be red, and I know that I'm going to want that. So if you do that, okay, don't sit there and make a class and call it red paragraph. That's not a good thing to do for two reasons. Number one, you might decide after a while, I don't want red. That doesn't really look good on the screen. Then you got to go in and change it, etc., which you may or may not remember to do. The other thing, and that's not a big change, but the other thing is you might decide later that you don't want it just for paragraphs. You might want it for your LI tags or whatever. All right? And now you never go back and change the original name. Now it's called red paragraph, which is a dumb name for stuff that's not red, that's not paragraphs. The reason I'm saying that is, notice what they're doing here. They're creating a style name called text view, and then they're applying it to an edit text. I think that's stupid. Now, that's me speaking. You may not agree with that. But I find that myself, I find that confusing. And who's to say, calling this text view, that it's always just going to be for 20SP? What if I want everything in my project to be 20SP? Okay, why should I call that text view? That doesn't make sense to me. All right, so the name really should be fairly reflective of what it is you're trying to do with it. Again, I wouldn't call this 20SP. That wouldn't be a good name either, because you could end up changing it. All right, but they give you a bunch of examples in here. So this is how you can override a single property. This is how you can take and use that style. So that's @style text view, which means this one. All right. Then notice a style that inherits a user-defined style, but also overrides two properties. So in other words, this right here would grab everything from here, which grabs everything from here, but it also adds bolding and padding. I'm going to try to take what I've already made into a long story and shorten it. What you should do is, when you're laying out an app, and I don't mean just this app that you're going to be turning in, for your project, but when you're laying out an app, you should kind of draw it out first and have at least some kind of an idea. Start with the end in mind and have some kind of an idea what you think the ending product is going to look like. I will tell you that the chances of it looking just like that are almost none. But at least you've got to start. And I don't mean colors and stuff. I just mean positions, etc. on the screen. All right. So they show you two ways that you can do this thing. Notice now they've got style name equals text view dot label. There are no label controls in this language. All right? They call them text views, right? So why they call that label, I don't know. But they did. And then finally they show you how you can inherit multiple ones. And if you look in here, you'll notice that's basically, that's an example of chaining. Text view dot label dot indent. All right. What I am going to ask you to do, and I'll give you the assignment in a couple minutes, but what I'm going to ask you to do, it'll be a two-part assignment. For the first part, and you can start on that today, I want you to go and build the app that we're going to build based on just what's in chapters 1 to 4. Period. All right. Then starting next week, on Monday we'll go over chapter 8. All right. After we go over chapter 8, we'll start talking about how you can incorporate some of the stuff from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 into your app. Version 2 of your app, or whatever you want to call it. Then Tuesday, we will go over chapter 9, which is the end of this section. All right? And we'll do the same thing. Then we'll talk about how we can incorporate some of that stuff into there. All right? Then on Wednesday, at least the plan for me right now is just to give you a whole day of lab. So when you think about it, you're going to get quite a bit of lab this week. All right? And what I'd be looking at then, or next week I should say, it would be a week from today probably, having our test on chapters 5 through 9. All right? That's what I'm looking at doing. And then we're going to go right before break, because that's the week after that, not next week, but the week after that, that's the week before break. Then I want to go over, and we're not going to have a test on the last chapters. We're going to go over chapters 10, 11, 12, and 13, I think it is, something like that. Or no, it's not those. I'll tell you what it is. We're not going to go over, let's see, where is it? We're not going over section 3, which is the newsreader app. Now, I've already done lectures on that, so if you want to go out, you can see those. But what I'd like to try to do before the break is go through this task list app. Chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16. Everybody hear that? Then after the break, the only thing we're going to talk about, and it's a short chapter, is how to deploy an app. And that's basically how to send it out to the App Store, etc. So the reason I'm telling you that is that my hope is then once we come back from the break, which will be the week of the 19th, the week of the 19th and the week of the 26th, we'll do Kotlin. All right? And that'll put us about, the next Monday is like the 3rd. Okay, the 3rd of April. So you will have all of April and May until May 9th or whatever our last day is to work on your app. No one's asked, but should we do it in Kotlin or should we do it in Java? You do it in whatever one is easier for you. I don't care. All right? I asked yesterday, you're not going to probably like hearing this at all, but I asked yesterday, Jeremy Sutton was in talking with Charles, and a week from today we're having Wentzville Middle School in the morning over there, and I've got to do a couple presentations for them. That's fine. All right. In about 5 weeks from now, when us will be gone to that thing, on that day, Fort Zumwalt is coming in here, and Brady has graciously volunteered to work with them. But that'll be a morning thing. So I asked Jeremy yesterday. I said, well, what about Lewis and Clark? Because they usually come in every year. In fact, 2 or 3 of my students, Colin was a Lewis and Clark student, correct? And I know that Tony is in the first year he was, and I think there's another one, but I don't know who else. All right? So they want to do that if they possibly can. So I said, well, if you can have them come in the afternoon during the first week in May, I can have my students present their apps to them. I said, they may not be complete yet because they'll have another week to work on them. And he said, oh, I like that. So, and I also told him how I'm going to invite him and Patrick and a bunch of other people the second last day of class, and that's when you're going to present. You're going to present both your app, you're also going to present your portfolio, all right? And it's your chance to sit there and talk about the program, what it doesn't have that you wish it had, what you learned out of it, etc. All right, we'll get to all that stuff later on. So it says, Figure 7.4 shows how to apply styles like the ones that you were defined in the previous figure. What the author says here is this. All right, I want to go and see if I can grab one of mine. I don't want to grab one of yours but sometimes that embarrasses people. So let me see if, crud. And I moved a bunch of stuff today, so I'll just go to my own desktop here and see if I can find where. That'll work, I think. Okay. So what the author says in here is what this chapter is about, for lack of better words, is to be able to go in here under values, go into this styles file, which right now virtually has nothing in it. All right, it's repeated the stuff from the color constants from the color file, and it says what theme you're using. That's it. All right, but the author says, hey, if you discover that you're building apps, and let's just assume in here that the whole semester you were building your own apps, and we're up to, like, say, your 4th app, and you realize, I really like using this background color, I really like using this font type, I really like using this font size, etc. All right, then the author, what he is saying is, if you look up on the screen here, is your window into the world as far as using that stuff is to come in here and go in here into your properties window, because that's where all the stuff is set right now anyway. You can pull it out of there and put it into your styles file. Then you never have to worry about setting it here. All right, that's the idea. At least that's what I got out of reading this chapter. All right, do you have to do that? No, you're not doing it now, and it's working just fine. But the idea is, if you have your own theme, or if you have a theme that you're constantly tweaking, you can just plug that in right away to any new project. All right, and ideally, at least, that'd save you some time. And this isn't what our reference chooser looks like anymore, so don't even worry about that. All right, but notice what they're talking about. You can go in there and you can set styles. You can set individual styles like that. All right, you can come in and at the beginning you've got relative layout, right? Or whatever layout you're going to choose. You can set style attributes for that. This is one time. Please look on the screen. You don't put Android : in front. Style attributes stand on their own. All right? So don't put Android : style there. It's just style equal. All right? All right. So they say how to create a style sheet. Sound familiar? How about CSS? What does the SS stand for? Style sheet, right? All right, so it's very similar. And there are different ways that you can do this. As always, I would recommend that when you get to this point, not if, but when you get to this point and you want to start working with styles and themes, at least for me, where I'm going to start with this is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in styles and themes. All right, in fact, well, there it is. Developer.android.com. Okay, there you go. I mean, that's a good place to start. I'm not saying that's going to answer every question you have, but it's a great place to start. I do want to mention, too, because, again, a couple of you had asked about this. Okay, I wanted to show this to you. I'm going to put this up. I can email you the link if you want it, or you can just take a couple minutes and key it in now, or if you don't care, then just zone me out for a couple minutes. It's not going to be big enough. That should be plenty big. Okay, that's too big. That's it right there. I think I mentioned to you before, there's a guy, he does videos. His name is Derek Banas, B-A-N-A-S. And he always says, like, hello, Internet. That's how he starts everything that he does. He's got a series of about 30 different videos on Android. Some of them are maybe up to 15 minutes in length or so. Some of them are shorter than that. The real good news about his videos, all right, notice he starts with Android for beginners, how to use Android apps. All right, and then you can move on from there. But the point is, I've grabbed one of his because I started watching it last night. I didn't finish, but I started watching it last night. It's his 9th one. All right, and why? Because it's on fragments. The reason that I'm showing that to you is when he lectures, he always gives you all the code. And sometimes a really good way to learn is to start digging through other people's code to just see what they've done. Now, I do want to say to you, some of these videos are 3.5 to 4 years old, so they're a little dated. They use Android Studio, at least the ones that I've watched have, but there may be things that have changed since then. All right? I just want to say that at the beginning just so you know. That should be the entire URL. I think that 4 that's on the end, that literally is the end of it. Yep, that's it. So even if you lose it, he owns newthinktank.com. You probably can go out there and dig it up too. All right? Again, some of you are doing just fine in here, and are probably bored when I bring up stuff like this. But some of the rest of you, I think, are struggling in here. And, sometimes it helps to get a lot of different resources. All right? So, like I said, I've only watched one of them, but I've watched his stuff before. I've watched his regular Java stuff is pretty good. All right, I don't know how the guy does. I don't know how he makes a living on this because everything that he does, he puts out there for free. All right, and I don't know if it's ads or what. Maybe he's got a rich mate. I don't have a clue. All right, don't care. But so you've got that if you are interested. So they show a way that this is done here. So this would be a style sheet. And again, what's a style sheet? A collection of styles. All right. So you notice what we have in here. Okay. There's two different themes, and there's some customized styles. You can set these things up in a lot of different ways. But please remember, a style is something that gets applied to one or more widgets. A collection of styles is what makes up a theme. Now, hopefully that makes sense. I can't think of a much easier way to put it. All right? So, they talk about how to work with themes. It says, now you know how to work with files, so let's take another look at themes. In particular, you're ready to learn how to modify built-in themes by overriding the properties that you want to change. And on page 237 in your PDF, they show you several examples of this. So notice, the author says here, name equals app-based theme, etc., etc. Then he puts a comment in here that says, if you want to do any customization, but that's for APIs 1 through 10. You might not even want to include that, all right, in your theme. But here, now they've got app-based themes, so that would be the stuff that you'd want to put in there. All right? As always, this gets a little bit hinky too when you look at it. Please look up on the screen here. Remember that r.dot file? We've used the find view by ID, and we use r.id something. There's also an r.stylable that you can use. Again, it holds the XML information that you have in the styles.xml file. All right, and it allows you that if you need to manipulate that programmatically, you are able to do so. All right. So they go through next how to modify the text appearance for a theme. So they give a pretty simple example. And they say this is some of the stuff that you can do. These are built-in constants to display a larger font size, a smaller, etc. You can come up with your own sizes as well. The advantage of using these is they're scalable. Okay? Now, when you use SPs, they are scalable. That's the S, and SP is scalable. And it'll do the best it can to scale. But these are literally built in to be scalable on any kind of device. So the author summarizes some of the built-in themes available from Android. All right? And that's on page 241. You notice there are a lot of them. All right? And the thing too is to realize these are Android themes. Now you might, yeah, they just said that. But the reason I'm telling you that is sometimes you might bring up a certain editor, and that editor may have its own variations of these. I know that for a long time, Eclipse, they had theme.light, but their theme.black, they called it Blackula. I don't know, I guess that was supposed to be funny or something. I don't know. But the point is, Blackula does, if there's something special on that, and you create a project using that, that's no guarantee that the person running it on their phone, they're going to have the exact same colors, etc. All right. So you can look through that if you've got an interest. As far as applying themes, notice you can use the Android manifest.xml to apply themes to an entire application or to a specific activity. What's the difference? If you've got a more advanced app that has several pages on it, each page represents an activity. If you put it in the manifest file, unless you override it, it'll be like that for every page. The advantage of putting it in the manifest file like that is you get a standard look and feel for all pages. All right? But maybe you've got an error page that you want to have it look different. You can do overrides then. All right? And they show you some of the ways that you can do that on here, but it's pretty much what we've talked about. All right? And believe it or not, we're just about done because colors is on the end. The author says how to define colors. Well, again, you define colors like that. You use the hex value. All right? And there are all sorts of really good sites out there. In fact, there are hex code color sites that will show you thousands, if not more, of colors. All right? So how to apply it? We've already done this. It says using, what this would do right here, if you take a look, all right, this would say whatever you've got defined as primary, you want to use that for all of your text, for example. You can apply colors to themes as well. All right. Right now, the only thing that I've shown you with colors is, if you remember, I set up that background color, to yellow for the last one, and I set the text color up. So I had navy and light yellow. But you can be you can go nuts with colors if you want to, need to, have to, etc. So that's it for the chapter. Again, I don't like these exercises because all of them work with that tip calculator. You can only take an app and shove it down people's throat for so long. All right. So I thought, I'm going to go look at the stuff that they provide for us as instructors. And they had a projects thing. Oh, that'll be good. Their projects stink too. I'm not going to use any of their projects. I don't like any of them. All right, so before I hand out the assignment again, on Monday we will go over this chapter, another short chapter, how to work with menus and preferences. On Tuesday, we will work with fragments. That will end this section. Okay? All right. So I already told you that this is the one that was coming. I don't have your names on here, so that's not a big thing anyway. But here's the homework. Put a graphic in there called Stealing from Wikipedia. So you can put your names on these. And when you hand them in, hand in your piece of paper too, so I can mark it up and give it back to you eventually. So, I took the rules from Wikipedia. I think we all know the rules already, but in case you didn't or forgot them, they're right there in the first two paragraphs. All right? Here's their picture from Wikipedia, which I shrunk down a little bit, but I'm more concerned with this. All right? So you're going to create two versions of this. The first version that you can start on right now, if you'd like, is to use just the material we learned in chapters 1 through 4 to create your own Android rock, paper, scissors app. I'm not giving you anything on it as far as should it have buttons? No, I want you to create it. All right? Make sure to keep track. So you're going to be printing out basically 6 things. you're going to have something, for each game, something like this. User picked rock. Computer picked scissors. Winner that'd be user. And then total computer wins. That'd be 0 if that was the first game. Total user wins. That would be 1 if it's the first game. Total tie games. And that would be 0. So do you understand what I'm asking you to give me for output? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of information. I want you to randomly generate a 1, 2, or 3, where 1 is rock, 2 is paper, 3 is scissors. If you don't want to use 1, 2, 3, if you want to use 0, 1, 2, that's fine also. Then 0 would be rock, 1 would be paper, and 2 would be scissors. All right? Show all of this info at the end of each game. Make sure to modularize. Use good logic. Use good variable names. All right? I've got strings.xml. Do I have to say that anymore? That, whatever you're using for text views, whatever you might be using for buttons or whatever, all that information should be in your strings.xml file. Okay? You don't have to do any work on styling it or anything. That's what we're going to do for the second part. All right? We will go over my version on Monday. If 9 of you get this done, or 9 of you have got an idea and you start on it and you get a good jump on it today, and every one of you, if you say, man, mine's better than his, good. It doesn't bother me a bit. I didn't spend very much time on mine. All right? So as I say, after we go over Chapter 8 on Monday, I'll show you what I did. And then we'll start to incorporate the material from Chapters 5 through 9. We'll do that Monday and Tuesday. Make sense? I'm not going to spend much time on it. I'm just going to show you what I've done. That's all. You will eventually turn in both the original rock, paper, scissors and the modified version. Both of these are due, because a lot of you say, well, you never say when stuff's due. They're due Monday, March 5th. It says it here in bold, and it says it on the bottom of the page. So please don't tell me, I don't know when this is due. You get it done ahead of time, that's cool. All right. Then it says, see these URLs for some help. So let's click on those URLs. This is from Tutorials Point. They actually have an entire rock, paper, scissors game there. Now, if you want to use something like that as a template, you can. I don't want you to copy the code. That's not doing an assignment. That's copying code. All right. On the very bottom of this, they even say you can download it. And I think you might be, yeah, you can do it there too. But they also have somewhere near it, somewhere in there, they say that you can test it, you can play it, etc. All right. I don't remember where it was, but I thought there was something in there. I don't really care. All right. This is a YouTube thing I found, and I only watched part of it this morning. I just got sidetracked. But it's not that guy. Develop rock, paper, scissors game in Android Studio. Again, you can use that as a jumping off point, but I want this to be yours. Does that make sense? I have given this before, all right, when I was at Blackhawk, and I had one of the students, and maybe you've even seen this online. Not only is there a rock, paper, scissors, there's a Spock, something lizard. Yeah, if you want to do that, I don't care. If you want to do something other than rock, paper, scissors. What I mean is, I want you to do that game, but if you want some other kind of images or whatever, eventually, that's okay. All right. What we'll start getting into next week is we're going to talk about adding images, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to add them. All right. And we'll look at styling, we'll look at themes, we'll look at menus, we'll look at preferences. What have I missed? In chapter 5, from 5 we'll talk about some of the other widgets, and we'll also talk about the fact that if you use buttons, how you're going to end up using listeners this time when you didn't last time. All right, does that make sense? Because that's what we're going to do next week. So the goal is next week, no more than an hour to go over chapter 8, then a half an hour to 45 minutes to show you what I've started to do with my project. And then Tuesday, the same thing, chapter 9 for an hour or so, then to show you what I've done with that stuff. Wednesday will be a lab for the entire period. Thursday, I don't know. If I have time, I'll see if we can do some kind of a pretest. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. For Friday, then I'd be looking at a week from today, you would have your test done on this. All right. Questions? All right, the rest of the period then is yours.